All right, I mentioned the quadratic formula here, and I do think it's kind of worth your while to see where this comes from, this ax squared bx plus c, where the quadratic formula comes from, because it comes from completing the square. So if I go ahead and complete the square, and I'm going to take an a out of these first two terms, so I left a b over ax, and then I took over a minus c here. And then I take that b over a part, right? I take that, divide by 2, so in other words, multiply by half, and I square it. Then what I'm going to have to put in here is a b squared over 2a quantity squared, in other words, 4a squared. Well, if I distribute the a, what I actually added to this side is one of those a's cancels, is a b squared over 4a, okay? And now what I have is a, and then I go ahead and factor this, and this will factor into x plus b over 2a quantity squared. I'm going to write this as b squared over 4a minus the c. Now I'm going to get rid of this a over here, so each of these terms is going to be multiplied by, or divided by a here. And so I've got this perfect square. B squared over 4a squared. And I'm going to give this c here, I'm going to give it a 4a so they have a common denominator. And now I've got this perfect square, so I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides. And I've got x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus the square root of the top. And the square root of the bottom, square root of 4a squared is 2a. And now I'm going to subtract this b over 2a from both sides. And I've got negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that's the quadratic formula. You've probably heard some of your teachers in the past sing that, where they do it to, what's the old tune? Pop Goes the Weasel. I'll spare you, but I'll give it a shot. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's give that a shot for this one. Anytime you're of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, this is x squared plus 4x plus 2 equals 0. Notice a is 1. A is 1, right? A is 1. B is positive 4. And my c is 2, right? So a is 1. A is 1, B is 4, C is 2. So I can just plug it into my quadratic formula. X equals negative B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And then we finish that. I got 64 squared, 16 minus 4 times 1 times 2, 16 minus 8 is 8 all over 2. So that becomes negative 4 plus or minus square root of 8. Well, 8 is 4 times 2, right? So I got 2 root 2s over 2. And then notice, good grief, I've made a mess of this, sorry. Each of those will divide into the 2. Negative 4 over 2 plus minus 2 root 2 over 2. Notice the 2's cancel. So we've got negative 2 plus or minus root 2 for that one. Okay? Those are our two answers. Let's try another one. Notice this is not in our standard form ax squared plus bx plus c. So what I have to do is get it in that form. So I'm going to add 6x to both sides. And I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. And then I'll have it be equal to 0. And now notice a is 5. A is 5. B is 6. C is negative 5. And I go ahead and sing my little tune. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative b is 6, plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. looks like we got 36. And then I got negative 20 times negative 5 is 100 over 10. Oops. I got back up. Let's see, factors of that would be, 4 and 34. I know the square root of 4 is 2. And each of those go into 2, right? So that'll leave me with a 5 here. That's gone, leaves me with a 1. So it ends up being negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 34 all over 5. There's my two answers. Okay. Let's keep going. One more here. Notice it is in the form 4x squared minus x plus 2 equals 0. A is 4, b is negative 1, c is 2. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Our b is negative 1. Our a is 4. Our c is positive 2. This is all over 2a. Negative 1 squared is 1. So we got 1 minus 32. Now notice this, square root of negative 31. Right now we cannot take the square root of a negative number. We have not been introduced to complex numbers. So right now we just say, oh, that's no solution. All right, so no solution at this moment. We will get to a point where we'll be able to solve that. That's CR14. Appreciate you guys listening and taking notes. We will see you next time.